So our topic today is we are continuing our OEM-specific ADAS training, and the OEM of the week is going to be Mercedes-Benz. So that's a little different, some of the things that they have. Going to find a lot of similarities, of course. They're going to use the same type of technologies that other manufacturers use, the radars, the cameras, and the ultrasonic sensors. However, there is an addition here. They do have a night view camera that's in there that we're going to talk about. And also, might be kind of interesting. A couple of these vehicles might seem like it's a little bit older than we're used to seeing here and having that much technology on them. But I think if we know about Mercedes historically, that they tend to put more technology in their cars and get a little bit further ahead of the curve, whether right, wrong, or indifferent. But they seem to be ahead of the curve when it comes to the technology stuff. Case in point is going to be the first vehicle, which is going to be a 2013 C-Class. So we've seen other 2013, 2014 model year vehicles, and all they have is a backup camera. So this one is actually pretty well equipped, even compared to a 2025 model year, some vehicles. So this one has 3 radars. It's got one in the front for the adaptive cruise control, 2 in the rear for the rear blind spot monitor. It has 5 cameras, front view, rear view, and 360 view. And then we have 8 ultrasonic sensors. So we have 4 in the front and 4 in the rear. So pretty darn well equipped for a 12-year-old vehicle. Now the front camera, the upper windshield camera, mounts up above the mirror on the driver's side there. You can see where that goes, and must be fitted properly. And if we go in the scan tool, that is going to be found under the multifunction camera. And then, of course, we have codes and data, and we have functional tests. We go into functional tests, and we have special functions there, and there's a function for calibration. So first thing it says is it's essential that the multifunction camera is fastened to the screen correctly, meaning the windscreen, right? Please check this by removing the plastic cover above the rearview mirror. Check that all fixings are secure and the camera is fitting correctly. Make sure it's just nice and tight up there, otherwise it might not calibrate properly. Please ensure the following. Vehicle is parked on a flat surface with no additional load. Adjust each wheel to correct tire pressure. That's important. Headlamps must be switched off so we don't have glare. Steering must be pointed straight, and all doors must be closed and ignition on. And it says use an ADAS recalibration system, so that means this thing has a target. Now, on certain chassis, you need to enter 999 for a distance. Otherwise, use a the correct distance between the camera and the target. So in this case, I just put in a random number. You just hit edit and you hit continue. And then if the calibration process is aborted while process is running, then you'll get a fault code and the ECU. Do you want to start calibration? So it's just going to verify that everything's in place and everything's where it needs to be. And then you hit yes, and then it goes through and does the calibration. Next component's the front radar. So that's kind of in the middle of the right above the bumper there. Kind of behind the grill in the middle there. And that is going to be listed under Distronic. So radar sensors control unit, that's going to be for the rear radar. Distronic is going to be for their automatic cruise control, which is what they call Distronic. So codes, data, functional tests, of course, adaptations in there. And we have the initialization of the control module itself or calibration of it by means of a test drive. So we're going to go through that one. Now it says 2 technicians will be required to perform a road test. So this does not require targets or anything like that, but it does require driving down the road under certain circumstances. And you cannot start the test until you're actually moving and on the road and where you need to be for all these stipulations here. So angle of vehicle to target object detected to be valid. Straight flat stretch of road, freeway or motorway. Possibility of a slight slope in the road, but it needs to be fairly flat. Your vehicle speed must be between 80 and 120 kilometers an hour. You must pursue the car ahead at a distance of approximately 60 to 80 meters with Distronic switched on. Ensure that you're following the vehicle in front as directly as possible. A slight offset in the vehicle in front can be okay. When you think you're within conditions, you may continue and the actual and specified values will be displayed. So you need to start this and hit continue after all of that's going on. So you need to be going over 80 kilometers an hour, 60 to 80 meters away. If Distronic Plus is activated during sensor adjustment, dashes are displayed on the multifunction display. Following situations can delay the adjustment procedure: traveling through a tunnel, heavy vehicle acceleration, cornering, a route with few target objects, and the electronic stability program function must not be switched off. So once you're done and you're in that mode of driving, you have your buddy sitting in the passenger seat there. All right, hit continue, and then it will start. That's why it says you need 2 people. Yes, technically you probably could do it with 1 person, but we want you to keep your eyes on the road and we want to be safe at all times. So yes, 2 people is required. Rear radar, they're going to be on the corners there. So just on the corners of the bumper, as you would know. And in this case, like I said, that would be under the radar sensors control unit, but there's only codes and data. There's no actual reset, relearn that needs to be done with that. 360 camera is going to be the cameras in the mirror, as well as, one kind of up in front and one in the rear. In that case, we would go into the camera 360 degree. Makes sense. Go into functional tests, special functions. And we have the 360 degree camera. There's some calibrations in there, and there's also a transfer of calibration values in here. So this procedure must only be carried out if the 360 camera control unit is replaced. So replacing the actual control module, the ECM for that. If the old control unit can still be interrogated, it's sufficient to perform automatic initial startup. Requirements of the old control unit needs to still be installed, and the new control unit must be available. This will only transfer the calibration value. So what it's going to do is it's going to retrieve the calibration values off the old module, and then when you put the new module in, you can then put those baseline values back in there, and then you shouldn't have to recalibrate it. And then in this case, we have an error. So control unit 360 degree camera control unit is not calibrated or incorrectly calibrated. Calibration values are invalid. Abort the process, install a new control unit, perform the initial startup, and then you have to do the calibration drive. So if it ends up being invalid and giving you an error, you will have to do a drive. Rear camera, that one would be with the backup camera there. And in this case, no specialty anything needed. We will see a little bit later that we might need some on some models. Park assist is going to be our ultrasonic sensors, right? 4 in the back, 4 in the front. And that will be Parktronic, they call that. There are some functional tests in here. So under special functions, there's some manual settings that can be done. So it can change the volume front and rear, the volume of the tone, frequency that it transmits at, whatever megahertz it transmits at. Don't know really why you might need to change that. Maybe if you're getting interference somewhere or something like that. Change the width of the license plate bracket. So if the vehicle is in a different country and maybe they have a wider or a narrower license plate bracket, that could interfere. So you can change that. You can also tell it whether or not you got a trailer hitch on there, because that would obviously change the sonar. And then review the coding of the module. Next one's a 2013 E-Class. So in this case, this one's one of their higher end models, so it's going to be a little bit more fancy. And in this case, we have 4 radars. So we have rear blind spot monitor. There's 3 of them, actually. There's one in the center and one on either side. Then we have adaptive cruise control. We got the one in the front. 6 cameras on this one. So we have the front view and the rear view, and then the round view. And then we also have the night view camera. So it's a night vision camera, infrared. And on this vehicle, there are 12 ultrasonic sensors. So there's 6 in the front and 6 in the back, and that is, of course, for park assist. So front regular camera, so the lane watch camera, lane keep a camera, multifunction camera, whatever they want to call it. That's going to be pretty much the same as the C-Class. We'll go in there. And then you can see the functional tests and the special functions. It's going to be the same exact thing. First thing it says is you got to make sure the multifunction cameras fasten properly, and that's step number 1. Night view camera is on the other side of the mirror. So that's on the passenger side of the vehicle, in the US anyways. So it's on the right-hand side of the car. And there is a separate function for night view assist right there, we can see. And under functional tests, there are some special functions, including the calibration. Now, this does need a target. This also says the same thing as a multi-function camera. So it's essential night view assisting cameras fasten to the windscreen correctly. Please check by removing the plastic cover above the rearview mirror. Check that all fixings are secure and cameras fitted correctly. So preconditions. The control unit must be installed in the vehicle. Camera must be installed and the camera lens cover removed. So we need to make sure everything's installed the way it's supposed to be. Vehicle must be standing horizontally on flat ground. Ignition must be switched on. You'll be guided through the following steps. First one's going to be vehicle level adjustment. So it's got air suspension, so it's going to level itself out. Then positioning the calibration aid, and then performing the actual calibration. So it's going to walk you through those 3 things. So it's going to have to wait for 5 seconds. Then it's going to get ready to do the leveling. So the vehicle is parked on a flat surface with no additional load. Adjust each wheel to correct tire pressure. Headlamps off. Steering straight. and all doors must be closed and ignition on. Use the ADAS calibration system or a target. Position the calibration system as close as possible to the bumper. If necessary, lift the housing of the headlamp aimer. Then position the calibration aid at the center of the bumper. Use the Mercedes star as a guide. Ensure the calibration aid is parallel with the bumper. Ensure an unobstructed view for the camera. If necessary, clean the windshield and the area of the camera. Important notes. Use the recalibration system of a height of 1,275 millimeters, measured from the setup plane to the center of the crosshairs on the target. Ensure the ADAS recalibration system is not tilted horizontally. Spirit level on the calibration aid can be used for alignment. Start engine and allow it to idle, and then we are going to go into the leveling. So it's going to say left front, right front, rear vehicle level. It's going to tell us how level it is. Actuation is not possible when the compressor lock is active. Allow the compressor to cool down. Actuation cannot be terminated when the values stop changing. So hit start, and then you're going to watch. And then once the values stop changing in there, you're going to hit continue, and it will go into the next thing, which it says turn the engine off. Please ensure the ignition is on. If the calibration process is aborted, you'll get a fault code, and you want to start the calibration process. So making sure everything's set, make sure the vehicle's level, make sure that the calibration rig is where it is, and then we'll hit yes, and it will go through and perform the function. We'll turn on the camera and calibrate it however it needs to calibrate. Front radar, that's once again going to be Distronic, and that's going to be the same exact procedure as the C-Class, so we don't need to worry about that. Rear outer radars. So we're going to have those back there on the outside corners of the actual bumper itself, not on the frame like many manufacturers do. This was actually on the bumper fascia itself, which is an interesting choice if you ask me. If it gets hit back there, that might cause some issues. But that would be in the radar sensor control unit. Or outer rear intelligent radar sensor system. Oh, sorry. So that's that one there. So radar sensor control unit, something else. Outer rear intelligent radar sensor system. So functional tests, special functions, and is a reset of learned values. So it must be installed in the bumper. This will reset any previously learned values. A calibration drive will be required after resetting the learned values. Calibration drive may last up to 20 kilometers. Diagnostic unit does not have to be connected for the calibration drive, so that's good. I'm going to reset it. It's going to say it's completed successfully. Now you have to drive the vehicle. So you hit continue, and then you can disconnect the scan tool from the vehicle, and you just drive it until the calibration is complete. We also have the center radar in here. So like I said, it's kind of in the middle there. And that one's under the radar sensors control unit in that one. And there's no resets, relearns, anything like that. Just codes and data. 360 cam. Once again, there's one in the mirror right there. And that's going to be a 360-degree camera. And it's going to be the same procedure as it was with the C-Class. Notice how it's the same exact model year, so makes sense that they would use the same systems across the board. 6 in the front, 6 in the rear for the park assist. And that'd be the Parktronic system, and that one does have the setup functions where you can change the volume, change the frequencies. But once again, very much the same. Then we get into a slightly newer one, 5 years newer. It's a GLA class, but that is not as high of an end vehicle for them, so they doesn't have nearly as many bells and whistles, or just some fewer bells and whistles. So it's got 3 radars, 2 in the back, 1 in the front, 5 cameras for front view, rear view, and 360 view, and then 12 for the park assist, 6 in front, 6 in the rear. So it seems like it took that cue from the E-Class. Front camera is going to be looking a little bit different, but by and large going to be the same type of function. It's going to come in here, and that's once again the multi-function camera. Same basic general gist of doing that as we were on the C-Class and the E-Class. Front radar is going to be behind the emblem there. And you may have noticed on some, many newer cars, especially like Mercedes and stuff like that, they have the emblem in the grille is actually like a translucent, because they got to be thinner to allow the radar waves to go through the actual the emblem. And that would be under laser and radar, and there's a calibration in there. It's going to be very much similar to the C and E class. In this case, we have 2 rear radars, once again, mounted on the bumper fascia itself. And that would be the, in this case, we have actual separate modules. So we got the side radar, rear left, and rear right. And then as far as the rear camera on this one, it's under backup camera, and this one actually does have a calibration. So we'd go under functional tests, special functions, and there's a calibration of the steering angle sensor, which needs to be completed first. And then after that, we need to calibrate the reversing camera. And it does specifically state in the instructions, once I go in to calibrate the camera, please ensure that the steering wheel is in the straight ahead position. Please ensure that you perform the steering angle sensor calibration prior to calibration of the reversing camera. Only continue if you have the appropriate calibration target available, and I'll show you the target in a minute. Refer to a workshop manual for details, or use an ADAS recalibration system like the TruePoint. So you continue. Let's use the system. Current camera calibration will appear on the command display. So that's the actual display inside the vehicle. And it'll say, are the red overlay boxes within specification? Red overlay boxes should be roughly over the middle point of the 3 optics on the target. So the target looks like this. It's got 3 different optics, and there should be a red box around the center of that. And if it's not, there's some adjustments that can be made. All right, and then the 360 camera, that's going to be in there. It's going to be a similar type situation. We go into functional tests, special functions. This one actually offers a calibration of the control unit as well. And you can calibrate cameras separately. So front, rear, left and right outside mirrors, and then multiple cameras at once. So if we wanted to do multiple cameras, calibration is only required if 1 or more 360 cameras are replaced. Do you want to abort the process? Yes or no? We'd say no, we do not want to abort. It's interesting how they ask you a reverse question. Calibration must be performed after replacing a component of the 360 camera. Continuing result in calibration setting of the camera and the camera control unit. Calibration drive can take up to 35 minutes. Do you want to start? Yeah, sure. Clean the lenses on all the cameras. Outside mirrors must be engaged in the drive position, so out if they fold. All the doors of the vehicle must be closed. Instructions for calibration. Perform the calibration drive on as flat a route as possible. Vehicle speed must be in a range between 5 and 30 kilometers an hour. Poor weather conditions and visibility can impair or prevent calibration. Move the vehicle, such as the field's vehicle speed and steering angle on the command display are shown in green. So all of this, the scan tool is just used to get you into the calibration mode. And after you're in the calibration mode, you're going to use the screen in the car to finish. So the end of calibration is shown on the command display with a symbol green check mark. Visible points, lines, or other structures on the road surface accelerate the calibration process. So I think, much like other manufacturers, they should probably recommend doing this in, say, like a parking lot with lines. If you can do that, you know, nice straight level parking lot with a bunch of lines in it, so it can kind of calibrate and make sure everything works. And then it'll run into calibration running once we hit continue. And the move the vehicle, such as the field's vehicle speed and steering angle, are green. Camera calibrated green. Camera is being calibrated is yellow. Calibration fail would be red. There's going to be a progress bar displayed at the bottom of the screen. Following operations must be performed after calibration. This is important too, and this is kind of a little gotcha moment. Ignition off, leave the vehicle, lock the vehicle, and then wait until the camera covers close after a period of approximately 5 minutes. So this thing has cameras, covers on the cameras on the 360 cameras. So it takes about 5 minutes for everything to go to sleep, and then the covers go over. After all aiming procedures, it's very important to test drive the vehicle to verify proper operation of the system. So that's kind of an interesting little gotcha moment. Got to wait 5 minutes after you're done. Park assist, 3 in the front, 3 on either side in the front, 6 total in the front, 6 in the rear. And that, in this case, on this vehicle would be under sonar, but there's no real special functions on this one either. All right, let's go live on the tool, see a few things that we might be able to see. Not going to be a lot more than what we saw in the presentation, but we'll do it anyways. Okay, so we see down here we have, say, like the multifunction camera, right? Go in there, I'll just pick one. Special functions, calibration. Make sure it's fastened to the windscreen correctly. Make sure the wheels and tire pressures are correct. Use an ADAS calibration system. You'll fill out a code if you don't do it right. Start the calibration, and of course, in this case, it would be failed because I'm not hooked up to a car. It does give you a note, though. If calibration has failed multiple times, please ensure you have adequate light and the windscreen is clear where the camera is mounted. It may also help to move the target back on the bumper 50 to 100 millimeters and try a calibration again. Please enter the distance you move the target back on the bumper when you're prompted. So you would go in there and you would enter that function. Also, we have the Parktronic should have the manual settings in there, so you can change the front and rear volumes. So when you're going forward or backwards, the frequencies, with a license plate bracket. So if you go in there, it's going to give you some guidelines as to what some license plate brackets might be. So wide in Europe. Actually, it's about the same in US and Canada, huh? Smaller in Asia, really small in Switzerland. Switzerland also has exchangeable license plate bracket, etc. So you can just go in there, just program them with a license plate bracket. You just choose whichever one you want. And I don't want to code anything else. So there you go. Kind of interesting. Also on a Mercedes, when you leave a module, it's going to have you cycle the key. Please make sure you do that. We don't feel like breaking any cars today. And it has happened in the past. I don't think it's as bad now, but it has happened in the past. Where cars get locked up, you just yank the cord out of the car. I want to see this radar control unit. It does have a functional test. So reset the emergency stop frequency. So that's going to be for the front radar, I guess. In that case. All right, let's look up the E-Class. And we'll go to, say, the night view, right? Calibration, make sure it's mounted correctly. Vehicle level adjustment, etc. Make sure everything's set. Set up calibration aid. Start the engine, let it idle. Then we're going to level out the suspension. So you're going to watch these numbers. And once it finally gets to a point where everything's kind of leveled out and it's not moving back and forth, we hit start first. Then we watch it and see once it levels out, everything is stopped moving. Then you hit continue, and then it allows you to move on to the next step. So a couple preconditions necessary for the vehicle. You want to start the calibration process? Yes, we do. Okay. So we'll go there, and it's going to give me an error because, hey, I'm not hooked up to a car. Cycle the key. Okay, and then in this case, the backup camera, like I said, it needed the well, that's just actuator tests. Pick the right one here. There we go. Special functions. Calibration of the reversing camera. And while it's doing that, we're going to look at the camera up here in service information. So outside view camera. Move and replace. Then we're going to have the rear camera. Remove and install backup camera. And then we're going to come down. And it's going to say initialize the reversing camera using a diagnostic system. And then there is the calibration device right there. So it kind of goes under the bumper, and then this will be read by the camera. Let's see. That got a thing telling you how it works? No, I guess not. Manufacturer repair might tell me something. Calibration of the backup camera. Might be a couple different rigs available depending on what model it is. Okay, and then we'll go into the GLA. And in this case, this has the camera cover control unit, because like I said, there's covers on the camera. Apparently there's multiple versions of this available. So self-tests, And then actuator tests are going to be the rear camera cover, open and close. Camera cover on that. So that's kind of interesting. Mercedes being a little extra, you know? Got to cover up those cameras. Outer rear radar intelligent sensor system, so you can actually go on the left and right. And as far as I know, just codes and data in there, yeah. Now that should have the same type of backup camera setup as the other one. Same 360-degree camera setup as the other one. This Stronix going to be the same as the other one as well. So calibration by means of a test drive there. So it's going to tell you how to do it. And that's the 2-person test drive. You want to have one person sitting so they can hit continue. So you don't have to take your eyes off the road. All right, so that is Mercedes ADAS. A couple little trickery things in there, right? Tricky type things in there where you have to have like 2 people or make sure that the vehicle's level with the air suspension and all that. So always make sure you're reading the instructions carefully to be sure that you're getting it correct, because any of those parameters, those pre-parameters, that if they're not correct, they could throw you off and they might just make the calibration fail. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. Next week, we continue our new classes, and it is going to be automatic transmission operation and testing. We're going to talk about the different sensors and different solenoids and different operating structures, and talk about adaptations, talk about a couple of unique situations in the transmission world, like the DSG for Volkswagens and CVT transmissions, which seem to kind of come and go. And I don't know if they're necessarily using them nearly as much as they were like maybe 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, so we're going to talk about that next week. So join me, same time as always, every Tuesday, 6 and 9 Eastern. Go to snapon.com/OT if you want to join on Zoom. Otherwise, the 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern class goes to YouTube. 9 p.m. Eastern class goes to our Snap-on Facebook page. So Snap-on Diagnostic Product and Training is what it's called. So you can look us up over there. And check us out at 6 and 9. Or whenever you're available, because we also have them available for free, all available on our YouTube channel. So this is episode 121 we're doing right now. Anywhere from intro to ADAS through diesel emission systems and everything in between. Anything you might want to learn about, I think we probably got a topic on it. There's not too many topics left, I think, that I haven't covered. So if you want to check them out, they're all about half hour long and they're all free. So free diagnostics training, can't really go wrong there. So scan that QR code if you want to go and subscribe on YouTube, and there is a playlist for all these videos. Also, do we have your email address? If we don't have your email address, then you are missing out on some good technical content, so such as technical focus articles, SureTrack blogs, quick tips, new product releases, and so on. They do send out my content calendar occasionally as well. You know what classes I'm doing. So worth it. If you, it's not like we're going to spam you. You get maybe like 1 or 2 a week emails that get sent out, maybe not like 5 times a day like some companies do. So it's all going to be value add content. It's not going to be any spam or anything like that. So if you want to start receiving that information, please scan that QR code and sign yourself up. Now, time for questions. As I said at the beginning, this is a pre-recorded session this week as I am traveling. But if you're on Zoom and you have a question, you can always reply to the confirmation email you got from Zoom. That'll go right to our inbox. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment. And if you're on Facebook, feel free to leave a comment as well. So with that, that is my time here. So I'd like to thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with me. And with that, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a nice night and take care.